bajo el rol de director adjunto de tecnología de los Estados Unidos, responsable de asesorar al presidente respecto de Internet, la política tecnológica e innovación, seguridad cibernética, la privacidad en línea, la libertad de expresión, la política del espectro, el emprendedorismo y la creación de tecnologías abiertas para plataformas de cuidado de la salud, la eficiencia energética y la educación. De 2004 a 2009 fue director de política pública global en Google. Y Andrew, we give you a warm welcome. Where are you? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the welcome and good afternoon. So what I'm going to do today is make an argument about the technology that surrounds us today and what it means for an Argentinian and for a startup in particular. And I'm also going to argue that we have an opportunity to take advantage of these same technologies in government, and that there's an overlap between the interests of startups and the interests of changing government that works together and reinforces itself. And so I'm going to try to convince you that not only can your startups save the world, but your startups can help change an institution that desperately needs it, namely government. All right, let's see if we can get my presentation here. Okay. So, in your phone right now, if you've bought in your pocket right now, if you've bought a smartphone in the last year, chances are that you hold in your hand or carry in your pocket more computing power, more processing power, and more computer storage than the entire NASA had in 1969 to put people on the moon. You're carrying with you as much computing power as it took to place Neil Armstrong on the moon in 1969. The reason that it now fits in your pocket is because of something called Moore's Law. This was a prediction made in 1965 that computer chips would double in power every 18 months to 2 years. And it's turned out to be true. What that means is, as recently as 1992, if you wanted to buy 1 terabyte of computer memory, you would have to spend about $5 million US, and it would look like that. Now in 2011, a terabyte costs $89 US, and it sits in the corner of your desk as a hard drive. That's how far we've come just in the last 19 years. If the same principles applied in the auto industry, a new car that would have cost, say, $20,000 US in 2006 would cost about $2,500 in 2011 new, and in 5 years from now it would cost about $350 new. That's if the auto industry had the same price and capability change that Moore's Law predicted. So in the computer world, online, these changes are even more dramatic. So as recently as 2000, the world's first cloud computing company called LoudCloud would sell you commercial hosting of an internet application for about $150,000 a month. Today you can go to Amazon AWS and it's about $1,500 a month. That's a 100-to-1 price drop just in 11 years for internet applications. This is a graph that shows global internet traffic. In one sense, it's kind of an old story and it's boring, but it really is incredibly dramatic to see between, say, 2006 and 2012 that the world's internet traffic is quadrupling in 6 years. So when you put these kind of laws together, that computer chips are becoming faster and cheaper, as a result, broadband is becoming cheaper and faster every year, and connectivity is becoming ubiquitous. Everyone in the world is getting connected. The consequence of that is that in IT, in web and internet, we don't live in a world of scarcity. So most economics and in fact most politics are built around this notion of scarcity. In the internet, at least at the moment, we have this kind of magical experience that every year of our adult lives, computing will get cheaper and faster, bandwidth will get cheaper and faster, and more people will be more connected in more parts of the world. Here's a graphic that demonstrates that I like. So this is cell phones per 100 people on the y-axis, income per person on the x-axis. Each little circle down here is a different country, and this is the spread of cell phones around the world. So as you look here, we're going through the 1990s into the 2000s. That's already 3 years old data. And already 3 years ago at the top of the chart, the United Arab Emirates has 2 cell phones per person on average. And even the poorest countries like Zimbabwe, Liberia, Burundi, 3 years on are rising up as connectivity spreads throughout the world. Just to take a look at Africa, for example, the least connected part of the planet. In 2001, there was a single submarine fiber cable that only went down the west coast. The east coast of Africa was completely dependent on satellites to reach the internet. Now, today, we've got a whole bunch of new cables that have been laid, and by the third quarter of next year, it's going to be even more richly connected. Within the next decade, we will be able to say that just about every corner of the planet has access to wireless broadband. So that's a big change. The science fiction writer William Gibson famously once said, "The future is here, it's just not evenly distributed yet." Well, we are working towards evenly distributing connectivity and computing power. Okay, so that's the economics of the technology. The other point which is important is the architectural nature of the internet itself. This is a chart from 1964, from the very first paper in the U.S. military that explained what the internet might be like. This was before they even really started building it. So this paper showed a telecom network, which is the one on the left, and so that's a very centralized network. A global telecom network is the one in the middle, where you have different centralized networks that are combined together. And the internet, in its utopian ideal version, is the one on the right, which is a distributed network where each device can speak to multiple devices in its neighborhood, and the networks can route communications however they should go to be most efficient and most effective. But it's that interconnected network of the internet that's made it so powerful, so cheap, and brought ubiquitous connectivity to the world. Okay, so these are our 2 broad principles: the ever-improving economics and the unique democratic distributed architecture of the internet itself. So this is the guy that I worked for the last couple of years. And here's the sort of parallel story, which was on the campaign, we were able to do all these amazing things. We used social graphs and targeting, and we made it possible to have really bottom-up organization of the campaign, and anybody who wanted to be a participant could show up and contribute directly to the campaign, organize their local neighborhoods, organize their towns, and we made really, as much use as we possibly could of the major tools that existed in 2007 and 2008. It's not all that long ago, but remember, in 2007, the world's most advanced smartphone was a Razr from Motorola. This was pre-iPhone days. There was no such thing as a mobile app just in the last presidential campaign. So what happened, though, was that we suddenly got ourselves into government, and we kind of hit a wall. So a lot of the things that we were used to doing on the campaign, using the internet to its fullest potential, we wanted to carry over into government, but we discovered that it was extremely difficult. In fact, it was in many cases impossible. Just to give you a small example, we wanted the White House to have a YouTube channel. So we had a YouTube channel on the campaign. We filmed basically every public moment of the candidate's life, and speeches and interactions, and put them up so that people could see. And so we thought in the White House we should have something like this too. But as soon as we explained this to the lawyers said, "Whoa, no, not so fast. First of all, it's a free service, and we can't accept free things from companies. That would be a bribe. Second of all, the terms of service here say that this is a California contract, and we're bound by California law. We're a national government. We can't do that. You have to go negotiate special terms with YouTube." And third, they said it's a competitive marketplace. How could we just pick one YouTube? We have to do a competitive RFP. We'll let the procurement process, it'll take a year, and then we'll pick which one is the best, and maybe it's YouTube. We were like, that's ridiculous. We can't do that. We had to go through this with YouTube and with Twitter and so forth. But anyway, it's a small example of these problems. Another example of just how messed up government's relationship to technology is this is a picture of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, just after the earthquake. And so when the earthquake hit in January of 2010, it was in the middle of the night, I was asleep, I woke up in the morning, and I saw the news, and it turned out that I was friends with a a couple of the guys who run ISPs in Haiti. I worked with them in an earlier job. And so I got onto Skype right in the first thing in the morning after the earthquake to see if they were online. And sure enough, they were online. And what they said was, we are up here, so you see where that tower is. There's a co-location facility, and it's where the mobile phone companies and the ISPs all have their facilities. And they were high up on a big rock, so they were okay after the earthquake. But the city was devastated. The telecom company was completely destroyed. It was only these ISPs that were still functioning. And as it turned out, the submarine cable was destroyed, and one of the ISPs was operating a microwave connection into the Dominican Republic. It was the only communications link in and out of Haiti at that moment. And so they were saying from this place that they had generators because the electricity was out. They had generators that were producing electricity, but they were going to run out of fuel. And they also said, our families are here, and we're nervous about them. We want them to get to safety. Otherwise, we're going to leave here, and the whole communications infrastructure will basically terminate. So I quickly rushed into the office, and I thought, this is, I've got a connection to these guys. We can help them out. And I got to my desktop computer, and Skype is blocked. I can't load Skype into my computer. So I had to go out and buy a wireless air card, bring in my own laptop, and set it on my desk, violating all the computer security rules of the White House, by the way. If anybody there is watching, I'm sorry. And so I would sit here and I would type Skype messages to them over here, and then relay to write email to the military commanders and that were capable of sending a convoy with fuel up to the top of the hill. But anyway, it's interesting that the best functioning communications technology was an internet technology, not the kind of thing that the government thought it should be using. And that was the sort of thing we ran into over and over again. So there's this change in government that I think this technology makes possible. And the best way to describe the change in technology is this. Most people are used to thinking about government as kind of a vending machine. This is an example, by the way, that Tim O'Reilly tells, so I'm stealing this example. But he says that you sort of think of government as a vending machine where you put your taxes in and you get your services out. You put in your taxes, you get out police, fire, roads, hospitals. And when you don't get the thing that you want, when you push the button and you don't get it, you get angry and you start to yell at the machine and maybe you bang on it. And he says that in this model of government where you're just a payer who gets a service, civic involvement basically turns out to be just like shaking the machine when you're angry because it's not giving you what you want. So the alternative for government is for government to think about itself as a platform. And so by platform, what I mean is a technology or a service that supports other people doing what they want. So the PC is a platform, it lets you run the software you want. Windows as an operating system is an example of a platform. You can run the applications you want, same with the iPhone. And in another sense, even a highway is a platform. The government builds the road, but they don't operate all the cars, they don't operate all the trucks, they don't do the transportation. They just build a platform and let you do what you want on top of it. It supports enormous economic growth when you get a platform right. So